Yeah, so everyone can and has the opportunity to attain perfection. Otherwise, why is there the International Society for Krishna Consciousness? That's the whole point. It's to bring one to being lovers of Krishna. But and these higher perfectional stages, it so happens that quite often they can be achieved at the last stages of life.
Okay, they can be achieved.
Yeah, they can be achieved, or they can be achieved before that, or one just continues in the next life. So generally, you're going to, back to Titimaj is not just one example. There's other examples as well. I think one example we gave, coming up somewhere, was Ratnaranjini. We mentioned her before.
Yes,
In Scotland, simple for the simple.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as if he is special because he's a Vaishnava, but what he achieved is possible for anyone. But again, his highest or his ecstasies really became extraordinary when he was in the process of leaving the body, and that was for also everyone's inspiration. I think his leaving was filmed.
Yeah.
Have
you seen it, Murali Prabhu?
No, I haven't seen all the classes. I watched a couple of them at a time.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, are you speaking about Gaur Govinda Maharaj?
No, back to Tita Maharaj.
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj.
Yeah, Chandravali Mother was asking about a class she watched where he was obviously getting revelations of Krishna and was getting quite overwhelmed in ecstasies. So
Yeah,
she was indicating how do we ordinary folk get to that level, and I was saying, well, if we look at it like that, then we're kind of disempowering ourselves, because what the Maharaj experienced is available for everyone if we follow the process of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. You get the idea? Did that? Let's just go back to Chandravali, because she asked the question. Is that an answer to the question, or that's another way of looking at it?
Yeah, no. It does. Anybody can do it. We just have to make the right choices, right decisions at that time. Well, not looking for mundane things. Try and put Krishna in everything. When you in that state, try and hear about Vrindavan, try and hear Kirtan, try and get your mind into that.
See. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what we should
learning from that. I was trying to learn from that.
Yeah, and we need to practice doing that before we get to that stage. That's the idea. Learners to take complete shelter of Krishna. Unfortunately or not, depends how you look at it. We have other options. We have the material energy to take shelter of, but at that stage in life, there ain't nothing else to take shelter of. Everything else is a pointless place of shelter. It's everyone and everything else is fallible. But at that stage, it becomes more apparent that Krishna is our only shelter. That's why at the last stages of one's life, one's realizations can be quite profound. Because one absolutely, with great sincerity and absolute dependence, runs towards Krishna.
So, to get to that point, we then in our life now, from now on, we have to really make the right decisions so we get into that kind of mood.
Well, we have to be Krishna conscious. We have to follow Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. But not just do it for the sake of doing it or ticking the boxes or not, but try and
This is what we've been doing. We should want to advance through the different stages.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
We want to advance through the different stages. Yeah, we should have desire to.
And I wanted to discuss it, because you're listening to somebody such a high devotee, and I wanted to discuss it at my level. How do I go ahead?
Yeah, it's keep doing what we're doing. But as you said, we want to go beyond just the kind of external practice, but we really want to achieve, and that's what this study is all about. Different
Yeah,
sensibilities.
because of this study. Yeah, because of this study, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Thank you for teaching us.
Okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have even thought about it. Thank you.
All right.
If you wasn't teaching, I don't think I would even think about it. I would just
Right,
say,
so-
okay.
And if my Guru Maharaj hadn't wrote about these subjects, and I wouldn't be thinking about it either.
Yeah.
This is amazing book. Oh, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
We enter into Sankalpa Kaumudi. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutalesh Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachalane. Namaste Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing with chapter, quick look, a long chapter, general examples of Sankalpas, and we've been hearing how Sankalpas manifest in a devotee's progress. And last week we was hearing about the first stages of Krishna consciousness, where one makes their determinations to one associate with devotees, etc., to chant the holy name. So let's continue. We're at the bottom of page 303, and Anupama has a hand for reading, so you can begin.
Yeah, Prabhu, I thought it was page 299 at the Let Us Move. That's where I put that.
No,
I think you didn't join last week because you was cooking last week, Anupma.
Oh, sorry. So what page am I? Sorry, please.
303, beginning
Yeah, and we're
before asterisks.
before the asterisk. Okay. The gold, yeah, this golden rule.
Suffering object. Obstruct.
Okay. Sufferings that obstruct living entities and thus their devotional practices are of three types. I can't say that word. Prabhu, what is that?
Bautik.
Adi Bautika, Adi
Okay. Those arising in the course of everyday social intercourse, those brought about by the environment, and those caused by our bodies and minds, respectively. To one degree or another, these troubles are inevitable in the material world. Still, a sadhaka must make lifestyle choices that minimize disturbances and thereby avoid the unnecessary challenges these obstructions pose. Liberated souls also conduct themselves in that way. The prose of Bhagavatam says, being unable to protect himself from the threefold miseries of material existence, the conditioned soul becomes very morose and lives a life of lamentation. These threefold miseries are miseries suffered by mental calamity at the hands of the demigods, such as freezing wind and scorching heat. Miseries offered by another living entities, and miseries arising from the mind and body themselves. Determination for good behavior and freedom from envy of others helps counteract the sufferings that others impose upon us. Adi Bodhika. An underlying principle of devotional service is that Krishna is present within all beings, and so a wise person offers respect to all manner of living entities according to their station. The result is that Krishna resides in the hearts of every living entity, reciprocates with the well-mannered. While speaking of Vishwamitra, Krishna says, just as a ship rescues those who have fallen into the ocean, similarly, I very quickly rescue from all calamities those persons who uplift brahmanas and devotees who are in a suffering condition. Similarly, the hardships imposed upon a person by the demigods through the environment, Adi Devika can be both mitigated and tolerated by the strength of a devotee's Nam Sankirtana, by being resolutely absorbed in that sacrifice prescribed for this age. The demigods are appeased and they look favorable upon a sadhaka. Krishna confirms this in the verse beginning with Ishtan Bhogi Hivo Deva. The third and last troubles, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. The third and last trouble to beset a devotee arises from his own body and mind. Readers can no doubt attest to the obstacles that their gross and subtle bodies place in the way of devotional progress. The Srimad Bhagavatam emphasizes that in the age of Kali, people are especially disturbed. The relentless anxiety, coupled with bad dietary habits and intense harassment from the other two troubles. Kaleshas are the source of untold physical, emotional, and mental problems. The World Health Organization reports that despite unprecedented medical advances, the overall physical health of the global population is decreasing, while mental illness is almost uncontrollably and alarmingly increasing. While devotional service, bhakti yoga is in itself not affected by any material impediments. Unfortunately, the conditioned souls who practice bhakti yoga are. Both Narad Muni and Srila Prabhupada recommend, by way of prevention as well as remedy, the practice of mystic Satya Yoga. Breathing exercises and meditation are certainly effective. However, we should keep in mind both the lifestyle and dietary habits of the Hatha yogis, but those two factors make the yoga practice effective. So while in today's world, and especially for the working population, it may not be practical to retire to the forest and subsist on fruits and roots. It is practical withdrawal from an excessively passionate lifestyle and observe a mostly violence-free diet.
Let's just pause there, shall we? For a minute, you can continue. I think this is very, very interesting. What we could say, could someone summarize what Maharaj is saying here in her own words? Go on, have a go. Nimai, you're muted, that's it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking Maharaj is elaborating on the sufferings of this, what sufferings we are getting disturbed with living entities on because of these three types, Adibhautik, Adhyat. He's elaborating on that.
Yeah.
Adibhautik, Adhyatmic, and Adidaivik. And also he's mentioning like what we should be doing. Determination for good behavior and freedom from envy is the one for Adibhautik. Like that he's explaining, he's elaborating on everything.
Yeah, more or less he's describing living in such a way that we live in such a way that there's less impediments to our devotional practice. So this means basically trying to cultivate and live in a mode of goodness. Sattva. And interestingly, I guess Maharaj has a quote, but he quotes there how Narada Muni and Prabhupada recommend, for instance, for physical well-being, the practice of mystic Hatha yoga. So I've not heard that exactly directly before, although Bhagavad Gita explains that we should be regulated in our eating, sleeping, and recreation, etc. So, in other words, if we're under the name of being transcendental, if we become irresponsible in regards to how we live, how we eat, etc., then it can cause problems in our spiritual practice, especially because, and as Maharaj quite succinctly said here, he said, while devotional service, bhakti yoga, is itself not affected by any material impediments, we are. So these material impediments, adibodhik, adidevika, and adiatmika, it can come in the way of our devotional practice. So, for example, if like adibodhika means misery is coming from other people, bodhika, other jivas. So I'm sure we have experienced to one degree or another where you've had a very, unfortunately, may have had a very unpleasant exchange with someone, or you was a victim of someone's passionate behavior. And then you sit down and try to chant Hare Krishna. Often it can be very difficult. Your mind's just going to what happened, and it can go on 1 or 2 days. So adibodhika. And then you got the physical side, adi atmaka, the mind, and then adi deva, the threefold measures of this world. So if we can, which we shouldn't, but it sounds strange, but putting Krishna conscious aside, there is ways we can live that can make Krishna consciousness a lot easier for us to practice. But that's what Maharaj is emphasizing here. He mentions that, where was it? He mentions here, Adi Bodhika, the sufferings that people impose upon us.
Yeah.
So we have to learn how to deal with that.
So, Prabhu, this is conscious living, talking about conscious living first.
Yeah, as Sri Prabhupada once said, first be conscious and then be Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Maharaj is kind of interesting. This is the end of the chapter, so he's just mentioning these points. I mean myself, I don't like giving myself an example, but I came to a point in my health where I was always had chronic hay fever. I still get it every now and again, but not like I used to. Any sickness that came in the ashram, I would always get it. And I could hardly breathe through my nose for years. And I was generally sick, every sickness that came 3 or 4 times. But every month there was something. So then I had a bit of an epiphany regards my health. And I went to South India. I did a health thing. And that helped, I think. But then that was teaching me yoga. And at that point, I started to really become serious about what I eat in the temple, and what I don't eat. Avoiding as much as I can too much sweet and things like that, and trying to eat healthily according to my what's it called? My constitution.
Yeah, dosha.
Yeah, dosha. And there's been I've had a complete, I would say, touch wood or touch plastic. There's not much wood around these days, touch plastic. That my health has been a lot better. And I'm able to do service. I'm able to continue with my service. So that's why I kind of really relate to what Maharaj is saying here. And also doing my Pujari service, I would often my back would go. And I would be kind of practically 50% disabled. And I should be able to do anything. But since I've been doing exercise and yoga, I can move, I can bend, I can with confidence, I can bend down and do this and do that and move around more freely. Of course, again, touch plastic. I'm definitely not, let's say, I'm not, what's the word? I'm not free of these things happening, but it's definitely been an improvement. So, and I've got more energy a little bit. Of course, I'm not getting younger, so but still. And for instance, so I'm going on about this, but it's one of my kind of interests I have. And I was asking one of the disciples, David Rittermarch is here. Now he's very proactive about himself, David Rittermarch. He's one of the healthiest 70-year-olds on the planet, 70 plus. And he goes to a power walk every day, he calls it, you know. And before a festival, he actually gets himself in shape. He goes, and you'll find other senior devotees. I mean, my Guru Maharaj goes swimming 3 times a week when it's possible. Anyway, like that. Any comments on that or questions? Some of you might have good karma where your health is generally good anyway, but be careful. One point, it's going to run out. Yeah, any comments on that?
Prabhupada says you have to look after your health, doesn't he?
Body.
Yeah.
Not so much body, but your health. You have to look after your health, you know.
Yeah, now we don't go too far. We shouldn't go too far. We have to keep a right balance.
No. And like also say if you eat too many sweets, you're going to get diabetes, or if you eat this or that. He says like that. So everything in moderation.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you're going to get old and you're going to get all sorts of things anyway, but try and prolong so you can do service.
Yeah. Like although his health is not the best now, sat there Narayan Prabhu, but still he's with us. And I remember seeing him coming to the temple, and he would pay obeisances like a 21-year-old, go straight down and get straight up, you know. When you see other people coming to the temple, takes them 10 minutes to get up the stairs. They bow down with great difficulty, and they get up with great difficulty, and they're just in their 60s or something.
Yeah, his yoga practice is amazing.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So we have to, if we invest now, we get a payback later. But if we just neglect our health, then we could be decrepit before we have to be decrepit. Ultimately, we're going to be decrepit anyway. That's for sure. There's no getting away from old age, actually. But still, anyway. I'll stop there on that point. Unless there's any other comments on that.
Prabhu, about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, you was
Okay,
speaking.
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, yeah. Let's go back there.
I was thinking, he, Lord wants to glorify him. So, and I don't know what to say, his karma also like that. So Lord took that opportunity to glorify him because his sadhana is more than perfection.
Yeah.
He never ever missed chanting rounds, chanting his 16 rounds minimum. I sing until he leaves. With that, all with pain, all still he would chant. So that is a very, very extraordinary situation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there will be another devotee to be glorified like that, who can really go through with that pain, that everything what he went through.
Yeah, I mean, he was a spiritual master, so he had many disciples. So he was teaching like Prabhupada did. He was teaching his disciples how to leave this world.
Yeah, that's
So in the same way, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was teaching his disciples and everyone else what it means to leave this world, and how a Krishna conscious person leaves this world. And he left the world more or less in great ecstasy of realization of Krishna. And others will leave the world in a more private, not everyone has a public death, like Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. A bit like Bhishma Dev, the death is very public. Others will achieve perfection through a more private leaving, with just a few in the room. Or some might, so there'll be different examples. So Yeah, but he did set a wonderful example, and he wrote many books as well. Dying before you die, because he had notice of death, so then he made the most of it. But again, what he achieved is not unachievable for anyone practicing Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Perhaps let's read a bit more, sure. Let's finish this chapter at least. We've got a couple more pages. Then,
Shall I carry on?
yeah, go on. Why not? Carry on, Mother.
Okay. When a devotee makes a determination for such a life, then he can be assured that the inconveniences of his physical body are but the vestige of his karma, arranged by Krishna as hurdles to be crossed over on the path to a trouble-free life, a Vaikuntha life. Krishna's assurance that such a Sankalpa truly ends in the targeted attainment is spoken of by Lord Brahma, and in a verse well known to serious sadhakas. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Finally, one overarching determination, highly recommended by saints and yet perhaps least accepted by sadhakas in a close-knit social milieu, is the principle of mauna, which means silence. It is said that by keeping silent, one can avoid all three kaleshas on the path of bhakti yoga. Yeah. For a Vaishnava, silence means avoiding prajalpa or speech that denigrates others, especially other devotees. Rupa Goswami says that such language is born of envy, jealousy, and pride, and is a major impediment on the path of spiritual growth. The resulting impediment will be Vaishnava aparadh, of which no more need be said. Lord Krishna therefore advises the wise practitioner to make and keep to a sankalpa of silence or an austerity of speech. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. A practitioner would do well to heed the Lord's advice and adopt Vaishnava Mauna. To avoid offensive speech, Krishna has given 4 proactive practices to embed in our sadhana. Speak truthfully, speak in a pleasing way, speak words that are beneficial, and regularly read scriptures. Such positive conduct will elicit a spiritual taste much superior to the bitter taste of criticism and gossip. As a final comment to this section, we should emphasize that avoiding the inconveniences of material existence should never be the motivation for Nam Sankirtana or Bhakti in general. The fundamental definition of pure devotional service is one that shuns the quest for liberation or even the desire to be freed of the inconveniences of material life. Thus, the motivation for devotional services should be for self-purification and for the pleasure of the Lord, not to be freed from suffering. Thus, as the verse beginning with Tatte explains, a devotee accepts all disturbances as Krishna's mercy, while living in a way that is in harmony with the demigods, other living entities, and his very self. Why? Because he knows that this is the most trouble-free path of sadhana. Thus concludes our study of Narada's teachings on Sankalpas as they apply to the advancement of a sadhaka. We continue our review of Sankalpas in the following chapter.
Okay, thank you. Any comments upon that? Yes.
Here it says, as a final comment to this section, we should emphasize that avoiding the inconvenience of material existence should never be the motivation for Nama Sankirtana or Bhakti in general.
Yeah, then Marge clarifies what that actually is. We don't want moksha.
Yeah, that is true.
When after liberation. So we have to be, as we've established, we have to be responsible for our health so we can execute sadhana. But our
Yeah.
goal, but ultimately, even if we do that, by dint of our karma, we are going to have to experience the miseries of this world. So, but at least we can. But if we, as Maya says, but if we live in harmony with ourselves and with others, yeah, then we can have a more trouble-free path or something. So I think, in essence, what Maya is saying is that we're not after moksha. So moksha or liberation means, oh, I want to be free of bodily sufferings. No, that's not our goal. And as it's a fine line, I was speaking about, and Marge has spoken about keeping, as best as we can, keeping good health. But we shouldn't make sure we're not, that's our only inspiration. No.
We can say keeping good health because I want to serve the Lord better.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, well said. That's in essence what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I was thinking also perhaps we could get this printed on the wall, and every morning when we wake up in the morning, we can have these here. Speak truthfully, speak in a pleasing way, speak words that are beneficial, and regularly read scripture when we wake up in the morning. Mahajuti Maharaj, and when nice to go to see, he was temple president here, as you all know, he used to go to his place where he stayed. And on the wall, he had written this poster, and it said, I am willing to change. I am willing to change. It was underlined in his own handwriting. So every morning he would wake up. So anyway, I'm sure some of us, perhaps, some of us, yes, some of us no, but I'm sure sometimes we said things that have cascaded into a very difficult, made things, I'm sure we sometimes said things that have caused disturbance for us and others, So sometimes it's best to keep mauna, before we say something, we should think, is this truthful? Is it going to be pleasing? Is it beneficial? Because then we get entangled. Again, I don't remember myself as an example, but I had just last week, I was having an exchange with one devotee friend of mine. I've known him for many years. And we had an exchange about tattva. He's become quite sympathetic to the Sri Vaishnavas. No Sri Vaishnavas, and they worship Krishna in awe and reverence. And it started off a kind of a friendly conversation where he's saying there's no difference between the Sri Vaishnavas and the followers of Krishna, and that ultimately Krishna comes from Vishnu. But anyway, the conversation started pleasant, but after 2 days it got unpleasant. It got quite unpleasant.
2 days?
Huh? Sorry?
2 days? You carried on with that conversation for 2 days?
No, I just saw him. I saw him, it wasn't, no, we didn't speak for 2 days solid. So anyway, for me, I came away from that exchange feeling I have to choose my conversations carefully, because I would like to have spoken about them in that subject. I have an interest in the difference in sampradayas, but he was not of the disposition to have a sattvic conversation, and it got quite passionate from both our sides, and of course, and it disturbed my japa and it disturbed my sadhana. So I conclude we have to be very careful of what. We have to be very careful of better if I'd been Mona Rat, and now I've taken a Mona Rat regards to him. Not that I don't speak to him, but he's done the same with me. We don't speak philosophy anymore. We just speak about our health. It's safer because it just gets heated. So that's an example. I'm sure you probably got your own personal examples as well, where you have say something and you have an exchange, and then you sit down, try and do your sadhana, forget it. I'm not going to chant.
Selective.
It's like, you know, that offense to instruct a faithless person.
Yeah.
The holy name. So it's like that. You know, this person's got this track of mind, and it's just not best to just leave him come around himself, you know.
Yeah. What's the point? Again,
yeah.
Again, it's generally the old enemy, the three modes of material nature. There's some things you will say in a mode of passion, and there's many things that you won't say in a mode of goodness. When we're influenced by the lower modes, we say things that we would never say if we was in better consciousness.
Yeah.
Sum it up, yeah. Because of the modes of material nature. Sometimes we're blown about like a piece of paper by the modes of material nature, or we can be. That's why it's good to be really solidly situated in the mode of goodness. And I think most of you are. I think generally, yeah.
Prabhu, another point I was just thinking, even when you say something in mode of goodness, if the other party is not seeing that as goodness, you see, it's better that you say, okay, let's not talk about it.
That's yeah. Well, you're not going to be affected.
Yeah.
You're not going to be affected. They might have taken it in the wrong way by where they're situated in their consciousness. So despite the best of your intentions, but it's not going to disturb you because you said the right thing in the right way, and you wasn't saying it in a mode of passion. So how they react is something else that you are not to blame. You're not
control. Yeah.
Control. So it's different.
So it is better we say okay and we stop it because we see. Yeah.
Just like on book distribution, sometimes you approach someone to give them a book and they swear at you. I've had it many times where a few times they become greatly offended and they like breathing fire, and they condemn you. They, you don't, because you had good intention. You're not so much. You can be effective, but you may not be so effective. Right. So, pure interesting points here, isn't it?
If this happens, even with a devotee, if this happens, so still it is okay to say, okay, let's not talk about it. Like how.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, that's the conclusion that we came to. Me and he's a friend and we're still friends, but we have agreed not to speak on the subject anymore about tattva of the Sri Vaishnavas and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because we just get heated. So leave it.
Would you then, like, when you went away, would you start thinking, oh, I should have said it like this, or I should have said this?
Yeah. When I reflected,
oh, I should have been a better preacher. I should have, Then you're going to completely expose your thoughts.
Chanting.
Chanting. When I reflected on it, when I reflected on the conversation, I was the part of the cause of it as well. I was kind of winding him up a bit as well.
Yeah.
Because the first time because I hadn't seen him for some time, and I hadn't seen him for about a month. And as soon as I saw him, I said, Eche Kamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Oh, you winded him up straight away.
I was chanting this first. And then he came back at me about an hour later with something else. Anyway, we live and we learn. We live and learn. Well, those, where's...
It's, on this point, what you're saying, like when you talked and then you meditated on what you talked, it's like that, when we are doing something or when we get into some kind of a thought, and then you straight have to think, better not go down that line, because this is going to make me stay awake or think, not think, So we have to be so conscious as the thoughts come in. No more, that has to go out,
That's called the mode of goodness. That's what the mode of goodness is. The mode of goodness is illuminating, and you see things very clearly. Anybody else like to comment on this? On these points?
Yeah, I would like, Prabhu, I think like what we read about it is just mourn. Don't say nothing. Just be quiet about it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Rather than just sort of going around and then you have got to think, and then you think about this.
Yeah.
Just respect them, and that's it.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting. Marge brought it up.
Yeah, he said mourn, you know, to keep quiet about
Mona
it.
plays, it obviously
Yeah.
plays a role. It plays a role being Mona.
Yeah.
Silent. It's just
Yeah, exactly.
sacrificing. It's just sometimes it's not
You
work.
you just respect them, just be quiet, and that's it.
Yeah.
Then other than we think about it, oh, I shouldn't have done it, I should be this, then it's in our mind.
Yeah,
Keep on sort of, thinking about it, rather than sometimes you think it's going to go in that side. Just moan it, just silence it, and just say Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, confirming that. Thank you.
Well, I was just thinking about you. If you are in a preaching mood and you give classes and that, then you will end up talking or saying what you think is correct.
Yeah, now
Yeah, that's asking question, isn't it? Yeah, that's different.
Because your mood is preaching.
Yeah,
So you will come out with these things.
Yeah.
You're trying to say the correct things, so you want to preach.
Yeah, but there's a way to say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a way to say it, and there's a way not to say it.
Yeah.
Right? But sometimes you do have to speak the truth, especially if you're challenged. Say if you're giving class and someone challenges you, that actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Then you have to. But then there's a way of doing that as well. So it doesn't mean we're always silent. Sometimes the devotee, the Vaishnava, has to speak, has to stand up for the Siddhanta. So that's there as well.
It just depends on the circumstances, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it? If you're doing a class. Yeah.
Yeah, time, place, and circumstance. This is so, for me, I find this so important. Everything, time, place, and circumstance.
Definitely.
Yeah. I find Maharaj from South Africa, is it South African? Indian body. He comes at Manashinga's house. He is really he's really good. What's his name?
We had Bhagavat Maharaj.
Bhagavat Maharaj. Yeah, he is good at, if people, like even in Sunday class, people come up with questions.
Oh, he's very good. Yeah.
He goes back to the basic point and brings that person up.
Yeah, we actually call him the heart surgeon. Open heart surgery. He does.
Really?
Yeah.
Anyone asks a question, then he goes past the question and he manages to delve into their heart of their motivation.
Yeah.
And operates on them. Yes. Yeah. He's a bit of a mystic like that. He can enter into the psyche of people just by their question. And then he doesn't answer the question. He actually questions their psyche for actually asking.
It's quite scary to ask him questions.
Yeah.
Because
I think the way he talks, even the way he talks is so different. Very, very slow and takes his time.
Slow and powerful.
Yes, powerful. That's the word. Yeah, exactly. Spot on.
Okay, let's make inroads into chapter 17. Huh? I'm sure because we're having a great matter amongst ourselves, just 3 or 4 of us, and I don't want everyone else there is tapping their fingers. Then we're going to read some more.
Oh, we're enjoying this, bro.
Okay, all right.
Gaya.
Sorry, Gaya, we're checking away here. Okay, it's Krishna.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, let's perhaps Mother Chandravali, you can take us into chapter 17. Specific examples of Sankalpas.
Okay. The previous chapter was dedicated to scriptural examples of Sankalpas, Sankalpas of Acharyas, Sankalpas that enhance qualification for bhakti, and Sankalpas to minimize disturbance. This chapter is dedicated to examples of Sankalpa in pure devotional service. To preface an important aspect of devotional service, is the foundation upon which it is built. In other words, the modes of nature in which bhakti is practiced. A learned devotee knows all too well that devotion in the lower modes is not as conducive to perfection as that in goodness. Indeed, spiritual authorities recommend that a practitioner rise to the mode of goodness by cultivating those things that are in good. For in that mode, spiritual practices become second nature. Krishna explains, until one revives one's direct knowledge of the spirit soul and drives away the illusory identification with the material body and mind caused by the three modes of nature, one must cultivate those things in the mode of goodness. By increasing the mode of goodness, one automatically can understand and practice religious principles. And by such practice, transcendental knowledge is awakened.
Interesting, Marge, is speaking about the subject we was just gone on to, wasn't it?
Yes, we were talking, yes.
Yeah.
How it started with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, how we have to come to the mode of goodness thinking, and then Maharaj explained all that, and now we're reading the same thing. The whole idea is that by fostering the things that are in goodness, a devotee can overcome his passionate and ignorant habits. And then by cultivating practices of transcendental goodness, he eventually overcomes material goodness. It is interesting to note that the sadhana of simulating the things in goodness, to invoke goodness, is similar to the sadhana of simulating the things in transcendence, to invoke bhav. Obviously, a devotee must study well the characteristics of goodness and make a firm resolve to practice them. While many of these determinations are included in the activities of sadhana, many are not. If a sadhaka makes a sankalpa to rise to goodness, then he must ensure that he cultivates all the things in goodness that are both inside and outside the immediate sphere of sadhana. An example of the latter is a vow for cleanliness at all times and in all places, not just on the altar during arti. When in time the practice of goodness becomes spontaneous, then one becomes situated in goodness. Bad habits are eradicated. Sadhana becomes all the easier. One is fixed in devotion, and with the right association, bhav quickly arises. The sankalpa to cultivate goodness are important in order that a devotee acquires a clear idea of the science of sadhana bhakti. For that enlightenment will also guide him to the transcendental platform. We should reiterate here Krishna's warning to be alert when goodness becomes dominant in a devotee's life, as one may at that time become attracted to the material happiness which that mode affords. The Lord explains this clearly. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situations that in that mode becomes conditioned by the sense of happiness and knowledge. In other words, there is a danger when a devotee makes his initial sankalpa, as a result of which his sufferings are diminished and he acquires a semblance of devotional steadiness. The danger is that at that point, due to distraction, such as the obligations of household life, a devotee becomes complacent and does not make the further sankalpas needed to progress toward bhav. Even the sadhyas and sankalpas have their hazards.
Right, perhaps
now,
pause there. Let's pause there for.
It's really good, this is.
Yes, this reminds me of Maharaj. Many years ago, he did quite a groundbreaking seminar on the three modes of material nature, and he's referring it to the principle of it here. Say, for instance, for example, if we learn what is sattvic and we choose what is sattvic, we will invoke sattva within our psyche and within our being, so to speak. For example, if we're living or our place is a mess and we clear the place up and we clean it, that will invoke sattva. That will elevate our consciousness materially. But if we do not, or if we're in sattva and we come into an environment which is messy and we don't clean it, then we'll invoke the mode of passion in our psyche. You understand? So it's learning. So that was the essence of the seminar that Maharaj gave, is learning and being educated in sattva and being really strongly situated in sattva. And then it becomes spontaneous. It becomes natural for you to want to live in I'm giving an example of cleanliness. Kind of think Maharaj was having a bit of a dig here that cleanliness is not just for the altar during arti. Not just on the altar. We should be trying to develop sattva in all our activities and all our places and circumstances. And yeah, and then in the same way we do that, that's also the same method of invoking more advanced stages of devotional service. The same principle. Anyway, any questions or comments on that? Also, he mentioned not being caught out in the mode of goodness. One becomes conditioned by it. And therefore, he said at the end, the danger that at that point, being in a mode of goodness, due to distractions, such as obligation of household life, devotee becomes complacent and does not make further sankalpas needed to progress towards bhava. Understand? So, I think I mentioned this before. I think, you got the house, you got it set, that's it. No, you need to, we mentioned this before, Maharaj is encouraged to actually go further. You have to progress. Any comments on that? Or questions?
I was kind of break it down to thinking, like, say, when you are thinking, acting, behaving, trying to be in a mode of goodness all the time, then from what I can hear from Maharaj, that you'll become complacent, meaning, okay, you come to that state that you behave like that.
Yeah,
because you're practicing, you're living like that, you're talking like that. So it's like, then you think, I'm okay. I didn't say anything when that person said that. I didn't do anything because that person said, so you become okay, I'm in the right place. So you become complacent.
Yeah.
But you have to then move, right, from goodness to pure,
that's a good place to be, but are you? But when you chant the holy name, are tears coming from your eyes?
Right.
Also, I was just thinking, most of the time it seems that we are trying to go, especially devotees who just join from a Western style background, because they're kind of thrown into a mode of goodness atmosphere. They may not be at that point, but it seems like we're almost going from the mode of ignorance to transcendence. Is that possible? Or do we have to really focus more on the mode of goodness? Because it seems like we're just thinking, oh, Krishna's going to pull us up and we're going to just be able to transcend from the mode of ignorance. You know what I mean? Because we're not, we are trained in the mode of goodness, but it seems like there's more emphasis on relationship with Krishna. And so it seems like people are trying to transcend from the mode of ignorance to sambandha.
Yeah, to sort of sattva even.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the essence what Maharaj was, why he presented that seminar on the three modes of material nature, because you cannot go from ignorance to a sattva. It's not possible. No, you cannot go from ignorance to Suddha Sattva. Yeah. And devotees who don't address or don't make an effort to develop a sattvic or to develop the qualities of sattva in their dealings or in their life, they are not going to advance in devotional service, because under the plea, because as conditioned souls, actually, there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita which Maharaj was commenting upon. I forget the Sanskrit, but one who engages in chapter 18, everyone knows, if anyone knows that verse, one who engages in devotional service without flinching, but once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman. So, but as conditioned souls, we don't render that level of devotion where it's unflinching and it's unfailing in all circumstances. We have a tendency to be attracted by the material world, and we're influenced by the modes of material nature. But I'm just agreeing with you, Mother Lavanga, that devotees think that just by, they have this kind of misunderstanding that just by banging their head away, banging away at their beads, they're going to magically come to be Krishna conscious. I know, is this making sense to everyone? Am I confusing everyone?
It makes.
I'm agreeing with you with what you're saying. That no, we have to, and that's why it's in Bhagavad Gita, the three modes of material nature. So perhaps that's a good place for us to start, to try to become strongly situated in sattva, and not thinking we're transcendental, and it doesn't matter if we don't behave nicely. It doesn't matter, because I'm gonna chant 16 rounds, and I'm gonna dance like anything, and I'm gonna go back to Godhead. So whether you understand. Anyway, someone else can comment on that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that makes sense, because like in the beginning, in Prabhupada's time, everyone was very much engaged. And I think they transcended because they were serving pure devotee, and they were having, the book just, there was very much,
Well,
I think now we've kind of
matured.
Like,
well, actually,
matured a bit, and the development of the mode of goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if devotees are trying to jump from the mode of ignorance to, like, it seems like, yeah, some people may think, well, because actually Krishna consciousness gives you an impression that you might be purer than you already are.
Yeah.
Sometimes when when you take a good look at yourself, you think, well, no, I'm not that pure. But somehow Krishna, and maybe it's Maya, trying to fool the devotees, you always think that you're actually purer than you actually are. So you think you're in the mode of goodness, and you actually.
Yeah. Well, actually, you were speaking about in Prabhupada's time. Actually, of all those who took initiation, there's only a small percentage who have followed the process through to its perfectional stages. Quite a lot of them became entangled in offenses due to devotional service in the mode of passion and ignorance. With all due respect, there's no loss of diminution. But there's more people who actually went away from the practice of pure devotion in Prabhupada's time than are practicing it now, because of perhaps this type of thing. Not, if I think we could safely say, I think Prabhupada initiated over 5,000 disciples, and those that are still there, there's many of them, with all due respect, have compromised to one degree or another, and probably made offenses due to the devotional service in the three modes. And some of them, of course, have gone back to Godhead and they've perfected their lives. So that's there as well. Yeah. All right, perhaps it's just gone 7. Any last comments on this? anything on that, Movalawanga? You was going to say something?
No, I was just saying thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. So you can't jump from ignorance to goodness or to transcendence.
Yeah, it doesn't actually. It doesn't work. I've seen that in the temple where someone's dead. Great, they're going to Mangaladi. They're doing everything they should be doing. They're going on books, but they're in the complete mode of passion, and they get in arguments. They make offenses, and the whole everything becomes a mess in their spiritual practice. But those who are conscientious of and trying to interact nicely with Vaishnavas, then they progress.
Yeah, that reminds me of, you said Mahajiti's poster, I can change.
Yeah,
Was that it?
No, I will change.
Will change.
I will change.
I will
Yeah,
change.
you have to have that attitude that I will change.
Yeah, I will
Yeah.
change. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
I was
stop there on the
thinking,
guess. Gone. No, Nima, quick, get it in there.
I was thinking that is the only thing we can do because we can't change others. So I will change is the best sentence you can have in your life.
And just as finishing on this as well, just as one fast track way of overcoming the influence of the modes, and we can speak about this next week, is faithfully serving the spiritual master. Yeah, and that we'll speak about next week. You know. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Very nice discussion, and look forward to being with you tomorrow for our Sudha Bhakti Chintamani questions. Okay.
Yes.
I press.
Thank you, Muli Prabhu. His Grace Muli Prabhu ki.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
See you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hare